Hi guys, I'm Dan at vintagefellow.org and today we are going to revisit this Trek OCLV US Postal bike from 1999. Now we did do a video on this last year. It's my winter bike. I've ridden it for about 5 winters and to be fair, it's not in the best of shapes and we certainly don't get the best out of this bike, this frame in the winter setup. Now, of note, the derailleur is now shot. It's kind of loose and failing. The bottom bracket has eaten itself and is now creaking like mad. The front right changer needs stripping down and rebuilding. And overall, I haven't cleaned it since the last time you saw it in a video. So what this bike really needs is to come apart completely, strip it right back. I've got a little bit of localized repair going on just here. I've got to sort out on the paint. They often fail around that area on the paint. It's expansion and contraction of the joint area around there. And the plan is strip it back, deal with the paint, rebuild it with awesome period Shimano Dura Ace throughout, and I've raided the Bontrager parts bin for the Race Light parts. Would have been on this bike either that year or a couple of years down the line, including the super cool Race Light rims with only a handful of spokes on there. Gonna do my best not to break any spokes on that, but hey, I have a tendency of breaking spokes. Anyway, not going to have too much detail on this because I really want to get out there and ride this bike rather than do a full build. So we're just going to go ahead and strip this down. There we go, that's the frame stripped down, cleaned, and the paint touched up and sorted out. The paint, very, very reactionary. It did not like etch primer at all. What started off as a small repair became a very big repair, and I kind of had to stop and just do what I could do. You know, it's as good as it will be without a full strip down and repaint, which I don't want to do on this. Next up, full Dura Ace and Bontrager Race Light parts ready to go on. Here it is, the US Postal OCLV is ready to hit the road again. As mentioned, we now have full Dura Ace 9-speed on here with the SDI levers, a slightly later 9-speed SDI lever. They're the flight deck ones, just slightly more aerodynamic. Still can't rebuild them, of course, but still the same type, just a little bit sleeker in design. Up front here, 53/42, and on the back, I think it's 11/25. So a very rideable package on. Alright, so it's a stunning day here in the southeast of England, late summer's day, perfect to take this US Postal Trek, freshly rebuilt, through its paces. Now, we're not going to mess around, we're going to go and repeat the climb that we did a few months ago on the Jimenez Banesto Pinarello team bike, if you remember that one from 1995. We rode that up a 7-kilometre climb a few months ago, and that was kind of effortless. And to be fair, it's the kind of bike that the US Postal Trek has to stand up to. It's obviously a little younger, a little lighter, so this bike should be better, but we'll find out shortly. Okay, so we're back on the climb now. I think it's the Ashdown Forest climb, something like that, one of the top 100 climbs in the UK. It isn't really a climb as such, it's quite an up and downy route. It goes on for about 7 or 8 kilometres, and some of it slight downhills, most of it is climbing, peaks of about 10%, 12%, nothing crazy. There are quite a few riders and cars out this morning. Because I'm filming, I'm avoiding the temptation to try and chase anyone down, so I'm going to be very well behaved. Things of note, I noticed already this bike is a lot lighter. We're about 1 kilo lighter than it was in winter setup, and yeah, it's much more responsive. Still really nice to ride, a very pleasant frame. You can definitely feel that it's kind of over-engineered, that there's a lot of carbon fibre in the layout, but it's riding really, really well. A lot nicer than it was to change a few gears there. Yeah, now we're coming into the meat of the climb, so let's see how it goes. Now, strangely enough, in the middle of this climb, there's a really fast descendy bit to give us a great chance to see how this goes round the corners fast downhill. And I can tell you, it's really, really nice. So, coming up on one of the biggest ramps now, still in the big ring. What I can say is it doesn't feel as nice climbing as the Jimenez, Banesto or our Pantani Mega Pro in comparison when you're seated, but it does climb really nicely when you're out of the saddle. Yeah, you got to channel your inner Lance and just go for it. That's great. Well, as before, no cafe stop today, but at the top of the climb there is a Mr. Whippy ice cream van. So hey, always a reward for the effort. Now, back to the bike itself. Now, weight-wise, the difference before, when it was in the winter setup with the mixture of Campag on there and the heavy winter wheels, we weighed in at 9.25 kilo. And now with the Dura Ace and the Race Light Bontrager parts on here, we're now in at 8.35. So we've lost almost a kilo. And to be fair, if you put on the Bontrager X Light wheels and maybe a lighter saddle, you probably drop this below the 8 kilos, probably about 7.9 kilo. You could easily get this build too. Now, direct comparisons with its peers. That's going to be a Bianchi Mega Pro, obviously the Banesto team bike we rode. That kind of bike, and early carbon fiber bikes as well. Now, on the flats, it's really good and it descends beautifully. I really do like carving up the corners on this. When it comes to climbing, yep, I would say the Bianchi is definitely a better seated climber, and as we know, that Pinarello Banesto is just effortless for climbing. It makes you feel really good at the top of a climb. This is not like that. What it is like is it just loves an out of the saddle climbing attack. It kind of lives for it. It's in its DNA. So if you were like Lance, so basically half my kind of age with a lot more red blood cells in you and you're a lot fitter, this thing would be a weapon. You would just be out of that saddle. It was so rewarding. It just wants you to climb and just step on those pedals really hard, and then it just comes alive. But in a seated climb, it's just a bit harder, a bit more lethargic. You can definitely feel that there's a lot more carbon in this frame than certainly on a modern carbon bike of its type. So anyway, there we go. Would I still recommend a Trek USPS for anyone to buy? Definitely. These are fantastic bikes. They don't upset you. They downhill great. They climb great. They're really confident, and the frames don't fail. Like I say before, a buddy of mine used to sell these brand new back in the Lance period, and they have a lifetime warranty on these frames, and no one has ever claimed, as far as I understand, for frame failure. Possibly if a car drives over it, it'll fall apart, but they don't tend to fail for any other reason. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Do like and subscribe for anything that's cool to do with vintage bikes. Thanks a lot.